I'm so fancy. You already know. The book that I am about to review was intended for children. However, this video is not intended for children. Viewer discretion is advised. Fancy Nancy. Written by Jane O'Connor. Pictures by Robin Price Glasser. Copyright 2006. I love being fancy. And there was a lot going on here. She, like most kids, she seems to be putting Christmas lights on her mirror in an attempt to open a portal to another dimension. It's fine. She's got a voodoo doll. She stole Mary Poppins' umbrella. I mean, she's got a lot going on here. The one thing I can't believe is that she's into Sublime. She's into a ska band from the 90s. I don't know. I'm looking at Nancy, and she seems more like an Alanis Morissette type of girl, you know. She's clearly a future psycho ex-girlfriend. I want you to know I am here with my family. My favorite color is fuchsia. That's a fancy way of saying purple. I like to write my name with a pen that has a plume. That's a fancy way of saying feather. So, we're introduced to Fancy Nancy's sort of her gimmick, her catchphrase. It's very much her "what you talking about, Willis." But on this page, I have to say, it's a little overused. It's like Steve Urkel just coming in and going, "Did I do that? Did I do that? Did I?" It's just like... And I can't wait to learn French, because everything in French sounds fancy. You know, French people spray water up their anus. That's a fancy word for butthole. Nobody in my family is fancy at all. They never even ask for sprinkles. They look like they're being trailed by, like, Elton John's, like, tiny clone. And it's obvious here, since Nancy has ordered the super duper scooper, that she's developing some sort of eating disorder. And I think we can trace that back to Nancy's room. If you notice, she's got some skinny white women, hanging up on her wall here. So there's another thing I want to point out in this. If you look through the window, now you really have to be paying attention to this, but there's an older man sitting with a boy, and the boy is drinking a soda. And I can only think to myself that this figure, this gray, balding figure, this grandfather figure, has brought his grandson to an ice cream shop, and this little a-hole orders a soda? Are you mad because he tore you away from your video games? Do you wish you were home poning noobs? Instead, you're forced to spend time with the old man, so you're just going to passively, aggressively drink a soda? Is that what's going on? I may have some type of attention deficit disorder. So, alright, Nancy's talking about her family. There's a lot they don't understand. Lace-trimmed socks do help me to play soccer better. I just had a thought. Maybe Nancy's onset of fanciness can be linked to toxoplasmosis. Many Brazilian soccer players develop this parasite in their brains from cat poop called toxoplasmosis that causes risky sort of behavior. It's why they're excellent soccer players. They take more risks. They're basically nuts. Sandwiches definitely taste better when you stick in frilly toothpicks. Oh, Nancy, you're making sandwiches for a man? You're wearing a little apron that says "You go, girl," but you're making sandwiches for a man, a white man? An obviously straight white man. A schlub. They made the dad look like such a loser. A princess is supposed to keep her tiara on. Fancy Nancy applying a bit of fashion fascism. What's a fancy girl to do? I asked my doll Maribel. Her full name is Maribel Lavina Chandelier. Lavinia? Yeah, I could try that again. Her full name is Maribel Lavinia Chandelier. What is a fancy girl to do? So Nancy's at the grocery store with her mom and her little sister, and she's looking at this sort of little corkboard thing here with a bunch of stuff. Tuba! Then I get an idea that is stupendous. That's a fancy word for great. I like how the little sister immediately clocks that Nancy's starting some something like, oh, what is this crazy bitch up to now? So Nancy goes home, she makes this sign. It says, learn to be fancy with lessons from Nancy. Start today. Easy, fun, free. So there's a grocery list at the top of the fridge. I love this list. Cheese, milk, eggs, fuchsia, hair mousse. It's like this list was made by Prince. Prince, I'm reading your grocery list here. You want me to pick up fuchsia? I need 27 cubic meters of fuchsia. Maybe I can teach my family how to be fancy. I make an ad and stick it on the fridge. Ad is short for advertisement. That's a fancy word for brainwashing. Soon there is a knock on my door. My family saw the ad. They want to get started right away. So the family sits there and allows their daughter to be condescending to them for an indeterminate amount of time without giving her an open-handed smack in the mouth. So good for them, being all progressive and whatnot. So let's take a look at some of these fancy and plain things that Nancy has labeled here. The one that I think is very interesting is this Walk for the Cure hat. That's plain. That's boring. Cancer? Ugh. You know, come on. Please. So they're taking fancy lessons. Let's see where this goes. The trouble is, my family doesn't own any fancy clothes. That's okay. I go fine. What is that fancy word? Oh yes, some accessories. Ooh la la. My family is posh. That's a fancy word for fancy. So here's the family, all stepping out, ripping off the Ministry of Silly Walks from Monty Python. May I escort you lovely ladies outside? The limousine is waiting. My dad is our chauffeur. That's a fancy word for slave. This is a beautiful illustration. All the illustrations in this book are no jokes aside, absolutely beautiful, and some of them are just downright hilarious. This illustration of the family bursting in to the restaurant is hilarious. And I love how there's the black family that become immediately nervous. Oh God, we're going to be on the news. Is that white lady eating a salad? When we arrive at the King's Crown, everyone looks up. They probably think we're movie stars. Or drug addicts. I'm splitting hairs. I'm so proud of my whole family. They eat with their pinkies up and call each other darling. For dessert, let's have parfaits. My mom says, that's French for ice cream sundaes. Amazing, my mother knows French. When our parfaits are ready, I say merci. I curtsy and say merci. You know what? They're using the word parfait a little too much. I'm starting to think of Donkey from Shrek. Like I can't. You just say the word parfait, and I start thinking of Donkey from Shrek. You. I carry the tray like a fancy waiter. Oops. I trip. I slip. The tray does a double flip. That is definitely Woody Allen and Sun Yi, and they have adopted some what's the politically correct term? I know it's not minority children. Urban children? Children of color? Now that would be cock. Now COC. That's cock. That's not, let's not start using that as a term. I don't feel fancy anymore. I want to go home. Poor Nancy, brought down by her own hubris. Her fanciness has betrayed her. After I get all cleaned up, I put on my dressing gown. Those are fancy words for bathrobe. And I feel much better. I'm ready for a parfait. I often wonder what it would have been like if Eddie Murphy would have been in the Ghostbusters movies. I mean, I like Ernie Hudson, but I mean, him and Dan Aykroyd were so good in trading places that I'm trailing off again. Did you say the word parfait? I think of Donkey from Shrek. I think of Donkey from Shrek. I think of Eddie Murphy. I think of Eddie Murphy. I think about the fact that he almost played Winston in the original Ghostbusters film, and I just wonder how that would have been. I absolutely love the film that we got, but if I could travel to another dimension, one of the things I would definitely do is watch that version of Ghostbusters. I tell my parents, thank you for being fancy tonight. Look at this. This beautiful, touching family moment is brought to you by Yummy Yummy chocolate syrup and Goodies ice cream. Goodies. Eat the whole thing, you fat, sad fuck. I love you, my dad says. I love you, my mom says. And all I say back is, I love you. Because there isn't a fancy or better way of saying that. If you'd like to learn more about being fancy, I suggest you go to your local library and check out a video cassette copy of Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. It's about some very fancy, as the box puts it, girls who just want to have fun in a hilarious comedy about repairing broken hearts, broken dreams, and broken nails. It's Roadhouse, Blade, and that evil clown from Spawn dressed as women. And of course, there is a dark side to fanciness. I have here my copy of Storytelling by Tori Spelling. Tori Spelling in her book talks about her mom buying her these creepy dolls every year on her birthday, like these big, really finely detailed dolls that she was never allowed to play with. They were just put into glass cases. So by the time she was like 9 or 10 years old, she had like 9 or 10 of these giant creepy dolls in these giant glass cases just in her bedroom. I mean, like, that's like the setup to a horror movie. And this book is really good, though. Let me read you a little bit of this. This is a story all about how my life got twist-turned upside down, and I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there. I'll tell you how I became the Princess of Bel-Air. The biggest concern I have in doing this Fancy Nancy video is where do I put the butthole joke? And this is James A. Roberson. If you like my work, you want to see more, please visit JARHUMOR.com. I sell t-shirts. I make comic strips. Let's go. Get my tuna fish. Oh, I dropped my little spoon. Oh. Okay. Open up. It's fancy. I'm going to take out a cracker. That's our word. It's okay if I use it. The trick is to evenly disperse the tuna amongst the crackers. I think that's in the Bible. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord to disperse the tuna amongst the crackers. And this is where things get disgusting, where you have run out of crackers, but there's still a little bit of tuna left in there. And you realize, you know what? I'm not letting this go to waste. I paid for this damn tuna.